right. Good evening, everyone. Like Dr. Monaco said, my name is Christabel Jaiyeola. I am a pain medicine fellow at Stanford. So for today's pain science lecture series talk, I will be presenting on nutrition, nutraceuticals, and chronic pain. Okay, so here's the outline for this talk. First, I will be discussing the relationship between chronic pain and inflammation. Then I will give a brief overview of dietary strategies to reduce chronic inflammation and, as a result, chronic pain. Finally, I will review some of the most common nutrient supplements or nutraceuticals that are used in the context of chronic pain treatment. So many of you probably already know that chronic pain is very common. It's estimated that over 100 million people in the United States meet criteria for chronic pain syndrome, which can present in various forms, including osteoarthritis, neuropathy or nerve pain, or even pain from autoimmune disease. About 20 million individuals in this country are dealing with severe, incapacitating chronic pain. So there are a lot of people who are truly suffering from pain, and the cost of those people receiving medical care for their chronic pain is extremely high. It's estimated that the cost of pain care in the United States falls somewhere in the range of $560 to $635 billion annually. Now I'm going to talk a bit about inflammation. Inflammation is the body's immediate, natural, and protective response against infections and injuries. Physiologically, inflammation is supposed to be a time-limited process. When the process of inflammation is no longer regulated by time, the body remains in a chronic state of inflammation. This can lead to chronic disease. Some of the most common chronic diseases, including diabetes, heart attack, stroke, and cancer, all involve chronic inflammation in their development. What the medical world has found in researching chronic pain is that chronic pain also results from a persistent pro-inflammatory state. Conditions like fibromyalgia and low back pain have been associated with elevated C-reactive protein, which is a pro-inflammatory marker that can be measured with blood work. Conditions like neuropathic pain or widespread body pain have been linked to elevated TNF-alpha, which is another blood marker of inflammation. In 2013, the National Academy of Science published a report where they predicted that the number of people suffering from chronic pain will increase as chronic illness increases. Additionally, carrying too much extra body weight can further contribute to the process of chronic inflammation. So it's important to note that obesity is a pro-inflammatory state and a risk factor for the development of chronic pain, of chronic disease and chronic pain. The way we choose to nourish our bodies can have a direct effect on inflammation in the body and chronic pain. A diet based on processed meats, sugary foods, refined grains, and low intake of fruits and vegetables can lead to excessive production of pro-inflammatory mediators and a decrease in anti-inflammatory mediators. This can sensitize peripheral afferent neurons, which are involved in pain signaling. Dietary choices might influence the occurrence, maintenance, and perception of chronic pain. There are a number of chronic pain conditions which have been tied to poor nutrition, including headache, facial pain, back pain, arthritis, visceral abdominal pain, like in irritable bowel syndrome. Additionally, micronutrient deficiencies have been linked to chronic neuropathic pain and inflammatory pain. Unfortunately, much of the food that is commonly consumed in the United States have pro-inflammatory effects in the body. This includes foods that are highly processed and high in calories. These are foods that have unhealthy fats, processed carbohydrates, a lot of salt, chemicals, and preservatives, while being deficient in fiber, micronutrients, and antioxidants. These foods have a tendency to increase systemic inflammation in the body and reinforce the pathways that lead to chronic pain. So the opposite of the diet, which I've just described, is a diet which is built around decreasing inflammatory markers, increasing anti-inflammatory markers, as well as antioxidants, which help protect the cells from damage. This is an anti-inflammatory diet. This diet is high in non-starchy vegetables, fruits, legumes, nuts, seeds, healthy oils, and whole grains. Additionally, the anti-inflammatory diet allows the body tissue pH to be balanced, which is thought to allow proper functioning of mitochondrial enzymes. You may recall, if you ever took a biology course, that our bodies are made of building blocks called cells, and these cells are powered by mitochondria. Chronic inflammation seen with chronic disease and with chronic pain can lead to dysfunction in mitochondria. An anti-inflammatory diet is thought to prevent or correct this dysfunction. Many of you are probably familiar with the Mediterranean diet and the positive health profile of the Mediterranean population, which includes living longer lives and having a lower incidence of chronic diseases like heart disease, stroke, or cancer. The Mediterranean diet follows the guidelines of an anti-inflammatory diet. I've included a pyramid schematic demonstrating the Mediterranean diet. The base of this diet is daily physical exercise. People from the Mediterranean region typically are consuming a lot of vegetables, fruits, whole grains, and healthy fats. They consume fish, poultry, beans, and eggs weekly. They only consume a moderate amount of dairy and limit red meat intake. Part of the reason why the Mediterranean diet is so well known is because it's been so well studied. There have been some positive signals in research showing that adherence to this diet reduces all-cause mortality and reduces the risk of cardiovascular adverse events. In the chronic pain realm, this diet has been shown to reduce osteoarthritis and rheumatoid arthritis pain and improve patients' overall level of function. Now, while there are great outcomes that have been seen with the Mediterranean diet, I feel that it is important to acknowledge that diet is a very personal thing influenced by culture and socioeconomic factors and preferences. The Mediterranean diet, as well as several other research studies on diet and chronic inflammation, have taught us principles of nutrition that can be applied generally. There was a review article that was published in 2018 that compiled 172 research studies on nutrition, supplements, and chronic pain, and used that data to outline the principles of dietary management in the chronic pain context. And I've included a pyramid schematic from that review paper. So the first thing you'll notice is that the base of the pyramid is water. Water is an essential part of the human organism. It is indispensable for the conduct of all physiologic processes and biochemical reactions, which is why it's the base of the pyramid. Adequate water intake depends on many factors, such as age, sex, medical history, environmental conditions, activity, and level of sweating. For most people, it may be helpful to drink about 1.5 to 2 liters of water daily. And there have been some small-scale studies demonstrating that hydration status is significantly correlated with pain. Now, we'll move on to carbohydrates. So when it comes to carbohydrates, there are low and high glycemic index carbohydrates. The good carbs are the low glycemic index carbohydrates. The high glycemic index carbs tend to lead to quick release of and digestion of glucose, which creates a pro-inflammatory state and encourages oxidative stress, which causes cell damage. Low glycemic index carbs lead to slow, controlled release and digestion of glucose, which is less likely to lead to inflammation and oxidative stress. So out of that big review article, the recommendations for patients who are with chronic pain is to consume 3 portions of daily whole grains, which are things such as basmati rice, jungara rice, or rolled oats to which lower the glycemic index and overall glycemic load of the diet. Healthy fats and fiber also help to lower glycemic index. And generally, the more cooked or processed a food is, the higher the glycemic index. Now we move on to olive oil. So extra virgin olive oil is the main source of lipid intake in the Mediterranean diet, and it is recognized as an important factor contributing to the positive health profile of the Mediterranean population. It is rich in MUFAs, which are monounsaturated fatty acids, and bioactive compounds like polyphenols, which give olive oil its anti-inflammatory, antimicrobial, and antioxidant activity. Other seed oils do not have the same health benefits as extra virgin olive oil. Additionally, you can actually get similar benefits from consuming olives, which have anti-inflammatory and anti-nociceptive or anti-pain perception activity due to the presence of many phenolic compounds within the olives. The recommendation to all individuals with chronic pain is to consume 2 to 3 portions, with a portion being about 2 tablespoons of cold pressed extra virgin olive oil daily, preferably raw olive oil as a seasoning for food, and they also encourage weekly consumption of olives. Now we move on to meat. So an unbalanced diet that favors food of animal origin over food of plant origin is associated with the development of chronic and degenerative diseases and chronic pain. Higher red meat consumption can lead to unfavorable plasma concentrations of inflammatory and glucose metabolic markers in non-diabetic women, according to one small-scale study. Instead, it is recommended red meat be substituted for other white proteins such as poultry and fish, which are associated with a healthier biomarker profile of inflammation and glucose metabolism. So the recommendation for people with chronic pain is to consume white meat twice per week, so fish or poultry twice per week, red meat or processed meat once per week, and fish up to 4 times per week. Now we move on to legumes and soybean. Regular consumption of legumes has been shown to decrease inflammatory markers. Diets rich in soya create an anti-inflammatory effect through the suppression of pro-inflammatory markers by immune cells. It is recommended to consume legumes 4 times per week, either dried or fresh, and soybeans once per week for their anti-inflammatory activity and high fiber content. So if you want, you can start by replacing 2 servings of red meat per week with either legumes or soybeans to kind of help introduce that into your diet. Next, we move on to nuts and seeds. So the use of seeds, nuts such as walnuts, hazelnuts, almonds, pistachios, pumpkin seeds, flaxseed, and grape seeds, and their oil derivatives for chronic pain treatment has been widely discussed in research literature. In particular, walnuts contain different macro and micronutrients and other components that influence inflammation and blood lining, which can be disrupted by blood vessel lining, excuse me. Moreover, walnuts are rich in magnesium, and several cross-sectional studies have suggested that the consumption of magnesium can lower C-reactive peptide levels, which is a marker of inflammation, and lead to less damage to blood vessel lining. Also, pistachios have significant anti-inflammatory activity mediated by a number of agents like gamma tocopherol, vitamin K, phytosterols, carotenoids, and some minerals like copper, iron, and magnesium, as well as B vitamins. So in general, the recommendation is intake of 30 grams per day of oil seeds, particularly walnuts and pistachios, which may be helpful to counterbalance pro-inflammatory activity in chronic pain conditions. Now we move on to eggs. So eggs contain particularly beneficial substances such as fat-soluble and B vitamins, minerals, choline, and carotenoids, high-quality proteins, and other bioactive components, which can be both pro and anti-inflammatory. Eggs also have a relatively high cholesterol content, so you don't want to consume them too often. So generally, the recommendation is to limit egg consumption to twice weekly. And then now we move on to sweets. So the review article, which compiled all those research studies for chronic pain conditions and nutrition, specifically had a comment where they said, do not underestimate the positive effects of dark chocolate. So dark chocolate has actually been shown to reduce nitric oxide production and reduce oxidative stress due to its flavonoid content, which can prevent and reduce cell damage. So consumption of sweets sparingly is permissible. And if you're going to eat sweets, choose dark chocolate, ideally a minimum of 70% cacao solids over processed sweets. And then, so just to kind of summarize the anti-inflammatory diet, generally, in order to structure your diet to reduce chronic pain, research evidence suggests a predominantly plant-based eating pattern or Mediterranean eating pattern characterized by consumption of fruits, vegetables, legumes, whole grains, dairy, olive oil, with moderate consumption of fish and poultry and small amounts of red meat is the ideal diet. So now I'm going to move on to nutraceuticals or nutrient supplements, which are used for chronic pain. It's important to note that the best way to obtain daily vitamins, minerals, and micronutrients is eating a diet high in fresh food with an abundance of fruits and vegetables. However, chronic pain patients may benefit from nutrient supplementation, such as vitamin C, B12, micronutrients like zinc, fiber, or omega-3 fatty acids. This list that I'm about to go through is by no means exhaustive. It's just meant to highlight some of the highest yield supplements with evidence behind them, but there are a lot more supplements on the market. There are other research studies, small scale research studies that have suggested other supplements that I didn't include today could potentially be beneficial for chronic pain. So first I'm going to talk about vitamin C. So vitamin C is a powerful antioxidant, which humans cannot make on their own. Some animals can, but humans cannot. It's involved in the process of making hormones, collagen, and other brain chemicals. It's particularly crucial for tissue repair and adaptation to stress. Complex regional pain syndrome is a condition where people develop extreme pain in an extremity that's warm and persistently swollen, often after an injury or surgery. And so research has shown that vitamin C supplementation may be particularly beneficial for complex regional pain syndrome after surgeries or fractures. The recommended supplementation dose is usually somewhere in the range of 500 to 2,000 milligrams daily. I usually encourage my patients to take at least 1,000 milligrams daily. Next, I'm going to talk about vitamin D. So low levels of vitamin D is associated with inflammation and susceptibility to illness. Deficiency is very common in chronic pain sufferers and correlated with muscle fatigue risk factors. Addressing low vitamin D levels can improve muscle strength, improve sleep, mood, and pain levels. So the recommended supplementation dose for vitamin D depends on your vitamin D level and when you get blood work done, when they measure a level. But typical dosing is somewhere around 4,000 international units per day for adults and pregnant women, and somewhere around 2,000 international units for children. Now we move on to B12. So B12 is a water-soluble vitamin. It's found in foods of animal origin, such as meat, eggs, and fish. Supplementation of low B12 levels has been shown to improve pain, insomnia, and fatigue. Most individuals are able to satisfy their daily B12 requirement with their normal diet. However, if B12 supplementation is needed, that would be something that you would need to check with your doctor, check a level, get blood work and check a level and make adjustments to the diet or get B12 supplementation prescribed by your doctor. It's not usually something that you should pursue on your own and buy over the counter. Next, I'm going to move on to zinc. Zinc is the most abundant trace element in the human body. It has antioxidant and anti-inflammatory properties. Specifically, it acts as a cofactor for copper zinc superoxide dismutase, which is part of the antioxidant pathway. Additionally, zinc has analgesic or pain relieving effects in different models of pain. The recommended supplementation of zinc is 15 milligrams daily. And for people who don't consume many foods of animal origin, the recommended supplementation dose is 30 milligrams daily. Now we're going to move on to omega-3 fatty acids. Omega-3 fatty acids are found in foods like fatty fish like salmon and tuna, and also in some plant sources like flaxseed and algae. Omega-3 plays an important role in chronic pain control. Some studies have shown regular consumption of PUFAs, or polyunsaturated fatty acids, is equivalent to some medications for treatment of joint pain and is an alternative to NSAIDs. The recommended dose of omega-3 is either to get that 4 portions of fish per week or incorporate some sort of daily dietary supplementation, either 18 milligrams of EPA, which is eicosapentaenoic acid, or 1,200 milligrams of DHA, which is docosahexaenoic acid. Quite a tongue twister there. So those are the recommended doses for omega-3 fatty acids with supplementation. And then next, I'm going to move on to coenzyme Q10. So coenzyme Q10 is a powerful antioxidant involved in an extensive number of body functions. The body stores coenzyme Q10, the body stores of coenzyme Q10 decreases as we get older, and low levels of coenzyme Q10 have been linked to chronic disease like diabetes, cancer, heart disease. And low levels of this have also been implicated in migraines. So the recommended supplementation dose is 100 to 200 milligrams daily. Now we're going to move on to magnesium. So magnesium is involved in bone density, nerve function, and muscle relaxation. It's stored in the bones and in the muscles, and blood levels can be measured. If you're going to supplement with magnesium, the recommended dose for chronic pain treatment is 200 to 400 milligrams daily. Now, you want to make sure to avoid the anti-constipation stool softening formulations like magnesium citrate, because magnesium is typically not well absorbed with those formulations. So if the goal is supplementation, don't do mag citrate or any of those stool softening formulations of magnesium. And then if you have kidney disease, do not seek out magnesium supplementation on your own unless you have already discussed it with your doctor, specifically your kidney doctor. Next, we're going to move on to turmeric and ginger. So turmeric and ginger come from tuber plants, which are related. They have both been studied extensively for anti-inflammation. Turmeric and ginger have been shown to be useful for joint pain, menstrual pain, and post-surgery pain. Turmeric contains curcumin, which is the active ingredient in turmeric, and curcumin is generally best absorbed when combined with oil and black pepper, and preferably after heating. One thing that's really popular in some other cultures is a drink called golden milk, which is an Ayurvedic stable warm drink which contains turmeric and has been used for centuries for medicinal purposes. So Very interesting. So the recommended supplement dose of turmeric is about 500 milligrams, 2 to 3 times daily. And then finally, the last supplement we're going to talk about is alpha lipoic acid. So alpha lipoic acid, it's a powerful antioxidant, which may be helpful for neuropathy or nerve pain. Neuropathy is often characterized by burning, tingling pain from nerve disease or injury. So the recommendation for supplementation with alpha lipoic acid in Europe is 200 to 300 milligrams daily. And in the US, the recommendations are 600 to 1200 milligrams daily. And so thank you so much for your attention. This is the conclusion of my talk.